Blue Orlando, Nick Guzman, Chaz McAdams. We're here with Fordham Athletic Director Charles Guthrie. It's the introductory presser for Fordham men's basketball new head coach Mike Magpayo. I guess, Charles, I'll start with, what was this search process like, and how does Mike rise to the top of that crop?
Well, thanks for having me, and I'm delighted to visit with you all and your great work and your alumni. One of the best programs that I've seen on the college campus. So
thank you.
You guys
appreciate it. Thank you.
It means a lot. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Obviously, what rose to the top for me was I felt that Fordham needed to find a scrappy person that understands how you take a program that has been struggling, doesn't matter who the coach is, for such a long time, and how do you put the traits in place to find consistency to win and ultimately put us in a position to try to get to the NCAA tournament. And if you look at his track record and what he did at Riverside, a program that is documented, they were on life support. 3 years ago, I think they were going to drop the program. And so to win consistently and then to beat two teams, one playing in the NIT championship in UC Irvine and to beat UC San Diego, which I thought was one of the top 30 programs in the country winning 30 games. It just shows you the capabilities he has. And those teams are very well coached, they're very smart, they're very tough-minded, and he went toe-to-toe with them. And I watched that game on ESPN before even knowing that he would someday be the coach here at Fordham. So those were the thought process. Also, you want to find someone that if you said the word bodega, they know what it meant. I think it's hard to work in New York City if you don't know what it's like and the landscape and the people, the culture. It's a different animal. And as I mentioned in my remarks, we both cut our teeth at Columbia and started out here in New York City. And like he said, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. You keep that mentality no matter where you go. That hard working, grit, scrappy mentality. And I think that's what you need here at Fordham. This is not a peaches and cream Power 5 situation. For us to get to the top, we have to have a strategy. We have the system that we all buy into. We have to recruit to that system. And we have to have belief around the program. So that's what I see when I see Coach Mike. I'm excited to work with him. He's that type of employee when you walk in the door and they don't tell you everything you don't have, they tell you what you have. And this is no disrespect to anyone who's ever gone through. I'm just speaking upon what my interactions with the coach.
Something we've heard Coach Mike talk about in his introduction and everything we've read, it seems like he really, really wants to be here and not just using this program as a stepping stone to get somewhere else. How important was that to find a head coach who really, really is going to be committed to Fordham and Fordham basketball?
Well, I think that was one of the strong characteristics of our former coach in Irvine. The guy had a lot of passion for Fordham. He cared about the place. And I felt that when we went through this coach search, we had to find someone that had those same traits and qualities, because I think that's why our fan base really gravitated to the previous coach, because of the passion they had. And of course, the big 25-win season, which was something that was unheard of around here. So kudos to him, and as I mentioned in my comments, and I didn't get a chance to thank him through the process when we moved on. And I felt I wanted everyone to feel that heartfelt from me, because he was a great man, and his passion is something that we were hoping that when we went out to search, that we continue that on, because you have to love Fordham for it to love you back. And if you don't show that out the outset, people are going to see a fraud coming right through. And you saw the guy on the stage pour his heart and soul into Fordham, and he wants to be here.
Absolutely, and you, President Tetlow, and Coach Magpayo all talked about this new era, the ever-changing era of college basketball, and a lot of that has to do with, obviously, NIL. How are you and your staff looking to show that Fordham is not going to be behind the 8 ball on the whole NIL thing when you have all the resources you have in your alumni base in New York City?
Well, actually, Fordham is actually going to be positioned well, like Loyola. When you're a well-resourced institution and you could take over NIL and it's not some side offshore accounts, and it unlocks our ability to use our internal capital by using our existing resources, it changes the game for us. We're not relying on an outsider to manage and control NIL and pay players if that's what they're doing. Now we're going to a more of an enhanced model where it would just be essentially more money on top of the scholarship. And when we have control over that, it opens up the door for us to use our vast resources to be in the game, so to speak.
As we're talking about the changing landscape of college basketball, one of the things you're starting to see in the A-10 is the emergence of general managers. Woj goes to Bonaventure, Steph Curry just signed with Davidson. Is that something you'd like to see Coach Mike look into in terms of, can there be a GM at Fordham?
So I have two trains of thought there. One, if the general manager has got deep pockets like Steph Curry and they can donate millions of dollars, we'll give him a title. But I'm not going to go crowning anyone that's not going to show up for 50 hours a week. So there's two ways to look at it. I think the general manager, I'm supportive of Coach and his decision. That's not something that I think the AD should be involved in my opinion. I think if the coach told me he needed someone to do the laundry every day, well, that's his choice. I think the cardinal mistake for an AD, in my opinion, is to get in the weeds too much with your coaching staff and decisions, because they have to surround people around them that they feel is going to help them win and cover their blind spots. He's not in my office telling me who to hire for compliance. He's not telling me who to hire for support services. So I typically let the coach decide that, and then I would rally behind him. Now, what I can say about the GM is I continue to go back to Bill Parcells' quote. If I'm going to be expected to cook in the kitchen, I need to shop for the groceries. So whatever format a general manager is doing, I would imagine that if you're leading the program, you want to have final say and being in the front end of any decisions that are made that are going to impact your program. I wouldn't rely on some person off the street or someone to make decisions at that level with my career on the line. That's just the way I look at it. So whatever that role looks like, and you hear a lot of GMs across the country with different responsibilities, I want to know how does that fit into your vision, but leave it at that.
And we've heard, so many high-profile names come out in support of Coach Magpayo, who he's coached with in the past, people who have gone on to do great things. When you look at all that support from really big names in the sport of basketball, what does that tell you about Coach Magpayo?
That tells me we need to get Eric Spoelstra as our GM.
Start banging lines, man.
You got to do what you got to do.
Oh, well, when you have guys like Kobe Altman and all these guys that are doing it at a high level in basketball, not just in college basketball, these guys are not going to endorse and put their name on someone that they feel is not the level. It's not how it works. In my business, if Gene Smith is endorsing someone for an athletic director position and he's the top AD or, at Ohio State, then you listen, because these guys live by their name and their reputation. So when you see all these people flashing on our scoreboard that are behind this guy, it tells you he's one of them, and he's a basketball guy that's respected by people that are doing it. I mean, Todd Golden is going to play for a national championship in 2 days. So that's the type of heat we got here in Fordham and Rose Hill right now. So, and that means it opens up networks. So they're recruiting someone at Florida, and all of a sudden the kid is not going to make it at Florida, and now all of a sudden he becomes a Fordham type of person. Stanford is looking at a lot of high academic institution kids who all can't go to Stanford. We're going to this new model where, of course, we opted in. So with us opting in, we're going to a 15-man roster. So that means there's not enough roster spaces at Stanford and these other places. And when you have a network, it opens up the door for you.
Absolutely. And you talked, I thought it was really powerful when you talked about when you were up there that Fordham is a 100-plus year program that hasn't made the tournament since 1992. If you were to speak directly to the student body through that program, how would you tell them that even though this is a program that hasn't had a winning history in recent memory, how are we going to change that here in the Bronx?
Well, first of all, we got to show up and show out. And the reality is, when I got to my last institution, and I leave the name off the radio, they hadn't been to a tournament in 10 years. They just ripped off 3 out of the last 4. And I've seen it firsthand, and the student body was behind it. We changed the way they were sitting in the gym, and I'm hoping to look at our operation this summer, figure out how we can position the students a little bit better, to be more creative there. But they need to be with us now so that when we're rolling, they've been with us. And I feel like they're just waiting. I've seen pictures from that 25, and you guys are all attracted to that, and some of the guys that graduated from your radio station, because that's all they remember is that 25-win season. And they're like, hey, what happened?
We
were
got
supposed to get
nothing.
going.
We got not a lot to grasp onto. You know
Right.
what I mean? Yeah, we're
Yeah.
grasping at 25-8.
Yeah, so, and, you know, I think not having to play 7 Power 5s like you talked about, you know, we got to schedule correctly so we can get out the gate. You know, no offense to St. John's, but I don't think I'm playing them on opening day because I feel like a loss is a loss, and you're starting out 0-1. And I come from the old Syracuse mentality where Coach Boeheim didn't leave the carrier going into January. And so you get momentum going and you get the fans behind you. And so I'm looking forward to it. And he's considered one of the best schedulers in the country, so it's going to be great for us.
Fordham's athletic director, Charles Guthrie. It's a big day at Rose Hill. Fordham men's basketball introduces their new head coach, Mike Magpayo. Charles, thanks for taking some time with us.
Thanks,
we really
guys.
Appreciate
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much.
Look
Thank
forward
you.
to seeing you on the road. All right, thank you.
Back in a sec.